Hello, I am happy to see you. Thank you for joining. Katie Scherer, founder and lead creative of Big Picture Strategies. Thank you so much for joining. I spent a lot of today thinking about the eclipse. You may or may not have been one of the lucky millions to see the complete totality of the eclipse. My kids were able to go down and see the totality in Ohio. And from where I live, I could only see 95%. Didn't get that dark, but it was super cool to look through the glasses and see. Um, what I keep hearing, because everybody's been talking about it on the radio and everything, how incredible it is to see that corona shining around the complete eclipse, like the total eclipse. And as I was thinking about what to talk about tonight, I kept thinking about the eclipse and the corona and how amazing it is to see this, flame and, glow all around. And it reminded me of brand differentiation. And because I thought to myself, how does your brand shine uh, through the competition, through to your customers? How do people see you when the rest of the market is trying to black you out? I mean, obviously, we all know that our, competition, whether direct competition or, industry competition, maybe you're looking to build a niche, they're all trying to eclipse us. Everybody's trying to eclipse you. And so, how do we shine through that? Well, that leads us to brand differentiation. So, a couple weeks ago, I was talking about building your brand story, and we talked about some of the work that needs to be done when you're building a new brand or examining your brand story around differentiation, innovation, what you bring that other people don't. And so, I took some notes today based on what I work with my own clients, and I put everything in like two buckets for the purpose of this discussion. So the first thing I'm going to talk about as far as brand differentiation is probably what most people would think of when they think of this topic. And that would be the golden, attainable, goal of quality, service, value, expertise, and consistency. Consistency above all. Adding into that, of course, innovation. And so those are the things like the brass tacks of, a value proposition that you're bringing to your customers. What I want you to think about too, as you're working through and identifying all of those things, part of having a brand strategy, as we've been discussing, is putting the work into figuring out what those are for you and what that means for you. So the other bucket that I want to address tonight for brand differentiation would be kind of a little bit of the softer qualities. We're talking brand story, which to me is so much fun to work out and identify and build. Brand identity, which is, of course, your graphics and the visual look of your business, of your offerings, of all your communication channels. Brand values. That's something that I know we've talked about before too. And those brand values can be huge differentiators, especially, let me give you an example. Let's say that you are leading a small business that provides something really reliable that you're kind of like, I mean, I am a, oh my gosh, I'm trying to think of an example now. Well, I make jewelry on Etsy. Okay. Let's say I'm a business owner who makes jewelry on Etsy, and there's a lot of jewelry makers on Etsy, okay? And there's, certainly a lot of opportunities for differentiation on Etsy as far as reviews and offerings and the way you present your store. But let's say you're like, well, I make jewelry. How am I innovating? How am I bringing something new? One of the ways that you can really explore is communicating your brand values and optimizing that connection you have with your community. Connection and community, brand values, all of those should come together to create your brand identity and to build your brand story. And on top of that, of course, you're going to be adding in or, certainly offering quality, service value, innovation, expertise, and above all, doing it consistently. And so, those are some of the ways that you can shine through to your competition. For 2024, as I was pulling my notes together, I thought, well, let me, pull out some of the trends that we're looking at these days. The first thing that you should really do, kind of as an aside, it's something that really should be thought about by everybody these days, is how you will be leveraging AI and how or if you will present that to customers. So, for instance, is AI making your life a lot easier on the back end? Um, the answer is probably, yes, you're probably encountering some tools that are really useful to you. Um, but using AI in that capacity may not be something that you present to your customers. On the contrary, you may appreciate that you have these tools available to you and you can continue presenting to your customers like you normally would, and optimizing that efficiency. But are AI tools and is AI expertise a differentiator in your market? It very well might be. So you are either, using AI as part of your brand story and your offerings. There's a lot of obviously apps and technology offerings that really benefit from that and create a cutting edge kind of differentiator. But that may not be the case for your use of AI. It's something that certainly would be beneficial to work out, I would think, in 2024. So I think the ship has kind of sailed. Like everybody's already using it. So I would put, if you haven't thought about your business's use and apparent to your customers' use of AI, that's something you might want to add on your list as you're pulling together all the aspects of your brand story. Another thing is trends. Obviously, in this day and age, guys, like trends are not going away. Short form video is not going away. TikTok may go away. I don't know, but short form video certainly will not. And with that, of course, along with addressing the generations that encompass our market, our customer base now, you want to be able to pivot. You want to be responsive to the trends and the issues and the current events that your customer base cares about. And so, trends are another thing that you can just, spend a few minutes and think to yourself, how can I pick up on something that's trending these days? What can I do to pull a trend into my business offering, whether or not it seems, predictable to do so? It might be a surprising and delightful differentiator for your audience to see that you're picking up on a trend that's meaningful for them. And along with that, of course, goes relevancy, because these are all things for 2024 that are going to continue to put you into like the mainstream. It would be a mistake to ignore any of these issues in this day and age, and not to present, or at least define for yourself your stance on those things. How can I pivot? How can I be responsive? How can I research trends? Who can I talk to about trends? Where do I fit into trends? Am I going to create a new inroad or a new interpretation of a trend? Certainly that is happening. That has happened. So basically, wrapping things up, your brand story needs to be concrete It needs to be real for you. And as you go forward and continuing to develop your brand, those two buckets or thinking about brand differentiation in those two buckets might be helpful for you. So we've got the hard kind of like quality, service, value. Yes, everything that presents a good, solid business. But think about those softer things. Think about how you can make those um, brand values and your community connection, your care for the community that you serve. Make those apparent in all of your visual identity and your language, your communications, your core messaging, your mission statement. Make that part of it. Give your business some heart and soul. And that in itself will be a differentiator because nobody can bring what you can bring to your market. If you put your heart and soul and your values and your personality into what you're offering, it's going to be differentiated, and that entrepreneurial spirit's going to shine through you no matter what. So that's a good base to start on. So think about those two buckets. Think about what's going on in 2024. Don't ignore AI, don't ignore trends, and work on being responsive. And to do that, you have to be in touch with your customers, with your community, with your social communities. So be in touch with your customer base and show them that you cater to them, that you read their feedback, that your product development or your product offerings can shift to what they want more. Because frankly, tastes are shifting very fast these days. And I can't see that slowing down either. So responsiveness and pivoting is super, super important. Above all, your customers should see and feel that brand differentiation every time they interact with you or your brand, just by on social or directly, emails, whatever, any sort of communications, the purchasing experience, everything should be upheld by those brand differentiators. Customers should feel that they've chosen wisely when they choose your brand. Differentiation should lead in your messaging. And one thing to take above all is that trust and reputation matter. So that expertise, that consistency, the reputation online, your reviews locally, everything regarding that matters. People do remember those things. So those are my thoughts and my tips for tonight on how to shine through your competition. Just like the eclipse of 2024, we want to see the essence of our brand glowing around everything else that your customers see. And so I just wanted to say thank you again for joining. If you have any questions or comments or thoughts, I would love to see them. Definitely drop them in the comments. Also, do not forget that all of this and more is in my flagship course, the Big Picture, Big Picture Strategies Method for Business. It's currently at an introductory price. You don't want to miss it. I have the link to that so you can learn more and explore that, as well as download our free download for you on branding, that all kinds of tips that you can just take with you, no obligation. So again, thanks for joining me tonight. I'll see you next week.